Welcome to the Jaron Jarvis channel. I am Jaron Jarvis. Today, I would like to introduce to you, keep an eye out for a missing persons flyer for your kid. I work night security at a large hotel in the area. That's about all you're gonna get. The last thing I need after this ordeal is a bunch of teenage brats trying to rent a room there. It ain't a place for you to get your paranormal jollies from. And I don't say this as a way to save me some work. I say this because I don't want to find your missing persons flyer taped to our clean front windows. But, geez, I got a teen myself, so I know you ain't gonna listen to me. But you gotta know I don't believe in ghosties and beasties or any of that. Hell, I barely believe in Christ, really just habit that keeps me going on Sundays. So, it's pretty obvious that I got no reason to lie to you. No reason to fib about the night I heard some screaming coming from a room. I left home around my normal time, kissed my kid on the top of her head while she texted on her phone, and headed out into the warm July night. The old junker I drove didn't give me any trouble starting, never really did in the warm months, other than overheating, and I headed on to work. Carrie sat at the reception desk as I pushed through the rotating door. She was in her early 30s and a single mom with an asshole of an ex, but she was always all smiles on the job. Liked to smoke and sometimes I'd bum one from her. She had her ginger-colored hair in a tight ponytail behind her head that swung as she turned to wave at me. With a quick salute back, I went toward the room behind the counter to drop off my lunch cooler and pick up my security jacket. Randy sat at the monitors, and as I walked in he turned on the swivel chair. "Evening, Jake," he said with a grin, pimples still red on his face. Kid was barely out of high school and probably made as much as me. The perks of family in the right place, I guess. I shoved down the annoyance and nodded to him. "How's it going?" he asked, same as always. "What did day shift have?" I said just a few late checkouts where they had to get involved. Nothing out of the norm. "You want first walk?" "Nah, let me get settled." "You can take it, I'll do the second walk around, if that's okay with you." "No complaints here." He got up, the chair squeaking as he did so, and went toward one of the lockers. "Hey, did Jordan say anything too?" I slammed my locker and glared at him. Him and my daughter went together before graduation, or just hung out. I don't know, kids today got no idea of commitment. But things had gone sour and I told him before that I ain't the in-between for him and Jordan and that he needs to talk to her. Yes, I thought about shoving him down a laundry chute more than once, as I've been known to be an overprotective father, but I resisted. "What did I tell you about that?" "I know, Jake, but she's not returning my, then she don't want to talk to you." "I think that's pretty obviously, isn't it?" I went and sat down on the chair in front of the monitors and ignored his grumbling as he picked up the flashlight and left. I started clicking through the cameras, just trying to get a sense of the way things were flowing. Hotels are fairly quiet in the evenings, once in a while a fight or party will happen, but most people just want to crash. That made for fairly boring nights, but I liked boring. When you're almost 40 and raised a daughter by yourself, you don't get to be bored too often. Jordan still not talking to Randy. I turned as Carrie came in. She had a mug in hand and a cigarette hanging at the corner of her mouth. I looked at the cigarette and mug, and then at her. "It's been a tough evening, all right?" I held my hands up slightly. No judging from me. In fact, I could use one too. "Last one, but I'll share," she said, and went to the high window and opened it wide. The sound of crickets crackled in the night as she struggled to light a match. I got up and held my hand out. "I can do it. Don't need your help." "Maybe, but at this rate we'll run out of matches," I said, and she sneered while shoving the matchbook into my hand. I lit the match and held it to the cigarette. She took a long draw and then blew the smoke out the side of her mouth before handing the cigarette over. "So, Jordan and Randy?" "I don't know and don't want to know." "Oh, come on, you sound like my dad. That man couldn't stand the idea of some boy with his hands on his daughter. You're all just hypocrites." "Yeah, but sometimes we're right when we don't like the guy. Your dad was. Asshole." She reached for the cigarette and I handed it over. "Randy ain't like my ex, And I think I made a better choice this time around with you. Careful, HR might hear you talking like that. Like I care. Randy is really a good kid, little dumb, but he's got a good heart. She knocked ash into the mug. Give the boy a chance. I shrugged. It's not my doing, Carrie. He dug the hole himself and he's gonna have to wait until Jordan feels like talking to him about it. I took the cigarette. And don't you go putting ideas into that kid's head, alright? Jordan will sniff that shit out before he even gets 2 words in. She's too much like you. Oh, sweet talking me now? I said, and she grinned as she leaned in and touched my lips with hers. I kissed back, but before it got to be much more the phone in the office rang. She groaned and so did I as I moved back to the desk and picked up the receiver. Security, I said, and the fast-talking women mumbled through a few sentences. Wait, slow down. Sorry, is this Jake? Randy said he worked with a nice man named Jake. Yes, Mom. What can I do for you? Is Randy at work tonight? He is, but he's on rounds. Is everything okay? There was a long pause on the other end. Okay, good. Mom, did something happen? Another long pause and I heard the crinkling of paper. I found this poster outside on the telephone pole and it didn't make sense, but it was there. And what kind of poster? I asked and looked at Carrie, who had moved closer to listen. He's probably just playing a prank, but it did something terrible to my heart. It was a missing persons poster for Randy, had his picture and everything. Only reason I saw it was because Boshi wouldn't stop her barking and had to go out. Was right there nailed to the pole. A missing persons flyer for Randy? I furrowed my brow at Carrie and she narrowed her eyes in confusion and shrugged. So he's okay? She asked, worry in her voice. He is. I sat down in front of the monitors. I clicked through them until I found Randy walking down the first floor hall. I can see him right now on the monitors. He's finishing up on the first floor and on his way to the second. She let out a heavy breath. Good. He's getting his ass whooped when he gets home. She hung up and I listened to the dial tone for a moment before hanging up. What was that all about? Carrie leaned back against the desk. I handed the cigarette back. She finished it off and put it out in the mug. Apparently Randy is a bit of a prankster. His mom said she found one of those missing persons posters with his picture on it. I shook my head. Still think I'm wrong about the kid? Yes, you can't tell me you didn't do shit to mess with your parents when you were a kid. When your pops is having a love affair with a few cases of a beer a night, you're just hoping he don't remember you're around. Seriously? I just stared at her and she nodded and looked away to the window that was still open. Well, I did. The amount of shit I put my parents through. If karma is real, I think I'm screwed. Wouldn't surprise me. I looked back to the monitor to see where Randy was. It took a few camera angles, but I found him on the second floor. He was just standing in the hall. For a moment I thought the image had froze, but someone came out of the room at the end of hall and went into the elevator. What's he doing? Dunno. There was a ring from the front and she cursed. Damn it. Give him a call on the radio and make sure he's okay, huh? She left as the bell rang a second time and she shouted that she would be right there. I chuckled and picked up the radio. You training to become a statue? He visibly jumped on the screen and turned slightly to the camera. When he answered back, there was some strange sound coming through the static as well. You can hear that, right? Not just in my head, right? Hear what? Hurry up and finish the round. There's screaming coming from this room. He moved to stand across from one of the doors and pointed. But it's marked empty on the list. Screaming? Like people are enjoying themselves? No, like shit from Hellraiser. Jesus Christ, you hear that, don't you? He took a step toward the door, his flashlight in front of him like a club. I watched him knock on the door with the end of the flashlight. He picked up the radio and held it toward the door. You hear that? Right? It came clearly now, the voice of a girl screaming as if she were being tortured. It came breathy for a moment and went to sobs before the scream ripped through the speaker again. I stood, stunned, and then hit the button. The radio. Don't you go any more near it. I'll be right there, wait for me. I shouted into the radio before grabbing my flashlight and a baseball bat that sat beside the door. I rushed out to the front lobby and Carrie looked over to me in surprise as she passed over a receipt for a customer to sign. Jake? What are you doing? Call the police, Carrie. Something is going on in room 212. What kind of stuff? What are you talking about? Just call the damn police. I called as I rushed for the steps. I took them two at a time, tripping twice on the way to the second floor. I slammed through the door and looked down either end of the hall. Randy wasn't on either side. I cursed as I started toward the room. It was silent, eerily so. The kind of silence that followed a gunshot in a forest. My stomach flattened in my gut and the air settled thick in my lungs. It felt like the entire hallway had been doused in dread. I continued down to room 212 and stood in front of it. Nothing looked off. Nothing about the door or the wall told of what I would find inside. I picked up the radio from my hip. Randy? Just static. Randy? You better answer me, you jackass. I swear if I go in here and you're not there I'm kicking your ass. Oh, that sounds like fun. You've been wanting to do that since I met your little girl, haven't you? His voice came over the radio in a sing-song tone. Come on in and kick my ass, Jakey boy. Where are you? I licked my lips and swallowed dryly. Something felt wrong. If you're pranking me I ain't letting you within a mile of my daughter. Oh. That's a disappointment. I will miss how very loud she got when you hit just the right spot between her legs. It's like music. I'm breaking both your legs. I said and tried to fight against the sickness that welled in my throat. The anger I felt was distant to the dread and mixed into a strange feeling that made my skin shiver. Where you at? You inside, you little shit? Inside? Inside everything, Jakey. Inside your head. Inside your home. Inside your little girl and will be again. He. The static became stronger with every word so that when he laughed it sounded like something from an old broken telephone. I struggled to get the master key card from my pocket and slipped it in. I readied the bat, ready to cave the little bastard's head in. The door opened and the worst smell of my life hit me like a linebacker. I stood in the small hallway and shined my flashlight around the room. The walls were streaked in a maroon-colored liquid. The rug was shredded a few feet from me. I don't know why I continued on, but I did, my legs moving on their own. I stopped at the bathroom, its door and almost knocked off its hinges. The mirror was just a blanket of the same maroon liquid, as if it had been painted on. The room itself laid in tatters. One of the beds was tossed against the windows while the other one was pushed right against the wall and it looked like a fountain of red had come from the ceiling, traveled the wall and soaked into the mattress. On the bed laid what had been a person, but there was so little left that I couldn't even tell if it was male or female. I backed out of the room, sick pushing its way up my throat, but I fought against it and turned for the door. That's when I noticed something else in the bathroom. A piece of paper taped to the coated mirror. It looked like an old photocopy, the black shapes sporadic and blocky, but even at a distance I could tell what it depicted. Jordan. I rushed in, nearly slipped in what I now decided had to be blood, and grabbed the paper. I shined my light down on it and felt my breath hitch. In big blocky letters at the top was written, "Missing. Jordan Moyer. Last seen, this evening in her room. Disappeared, soon." Her school picture stared back at me in blocks of black and gray. Her smile seemed to swim as I stared and tried to focus. The rest of the poster had my phone number and address on it. I heard footsteps running down the hall. I folded the poster enough to fit in my pocket and rushed out of the room. 2 police officers greeted me as I stumbled into the opposite wall. "Hey, you okay?" A woman dressed in a police uniform asked, her hands out as if she worried I'd fall. No. I sobbed and pointed toward the room. Something happened in there. I can't stay. "Sir, please, just wait," the policewoman said and nodded to her partner. He took out his flashlight and shined into the room. "Just tell us what happened. Why's there blood on your clothes? Are you Jake or Randy? You work security, right? I have to go, my daughter, I have to." "Hold on, Slow down. What about your daughter? She cut off when a yell came from the room. Holy shit. Rayburn, call for backup. What the fuck? Her partner came stumbling from the room and laid his head against the wall. He threw up chucks on the carpet. The woman officer stood up and went to him as she called on her radio for backup. I took the chance and ran down the hall and down the stairs. Carrie met me at the entrance and stopped me with both hands on my shoulders. Jake? Where are you going? Why are you covered? What happened? Don't have time, got to get home. Where's Randy? I don't have time. I went to shove her aside but she instead shoved me back. You got time for me? What's going on? She gently slapped my cheek. Take a breath. I let out a desperate sob as I dug into my pocket and handed her the flyer. That room, something terrible happened in that room and I found that on the mirror. Carrie looked at me, mouth open and eyes wide. You try calling her yet? I shook my head. Okay, do so, I'll drive. I grabbed my phone out of my pocket as I followed Carrie out. Just went to voicemail. I left one telling Jordan to call me as soon as she could. I also texted her a bunch of times, but no response. Thunder rumbled above us and it began to spit as we jogged through the parking lot. She reached her car a few seconds before I did and she paused, staring at the windshield. Carrie? I called as I came to a stop beside her. I followed her gaze and saw a flyer stuck in her wipers, already soaked with rain. The ink had started to run, but I could read missing easily. Carrie went and pulled the flyer out and I went to stand next to her. Missing. Grace Hackett. Last seen, this afternoon in the kitchen. Disappeared, from her bed. The paper started to shake in Carrie's hand. She looked to me as if pleading with me to tell her it was all a joke. I wish I could have. She rushed to her car and struggled to unlock it. Carrie. It's a joke. She said and finally got the car unlocked. She sat down heavily and started the car. Sorry, gotta find your own way home. I'd come, but. No, it's probably a joke, make sure Jordan's okay. I'll call you. She slammed the door and peeled out of the parking spot, nearly taking me with her. I stood for a moment and watched her brake lights disappear around the corner. I fought with my own car and finally got it started. When I reached home the light in Jordan's room was still on, but her shades were drawn. I stopped the car and rushed through the door, practically busting it open. I rushed down the hall, screaming for Jordan and to my great relief, knocked her over as I shoved through her door. She looked up to me, a hand to her head. What the hell, Dad? I gathered her up in the tightest hug I could manage and broke down as I held her. She kept asking me what was going on but I didn't have the ability to answer and just kept repeating that I was so glad she was okay. I'm sitting in a chair outside her room with her door open while she's asleep. The sun is coming up and Carrie hasn't returned my calls or texts and I'm waiting to see everything on the morning news, but whatever this is won't take my daughter. I'll fight whatever it is, even if it's some demon or monster. That missing poster is going to be wrong.